Hey, everybody. Welcome to Market Mavericks on this Thursday afternoon. You get a fireside side view of what is going on between Trump and Elon Musk here. The battle is waging and the markets are, let's be fair. The stock market itself not doing a whole lot, but Tesla's stock is getting rocked. So, Scott, give us some rundown on what's going on here. I mean, what the heck, man?
I wish I had the tweets pulled up, but I don't. But obviously, we sort of had this situation where Musk called out Trump's tweets from the past, where he said that anyone who raises the debt ceiling should be fired, that every Republican should be voted out if they don't balance the budget, and all of these things that obviously Trump used to believe, coincidentally, I guess, when he was a Democrat back in the early 2010s. And now it's just become an all-out war. Trump effectively saying that, Elon Musk lost his mind and their patience was wearing thin. And then once he realized he was going to lose his subsidies, he went crazy. Musk saying, obviously, that's not true and that it's sad. Musk saying that they should actually get rid of all the subsidies, even for his electric chargers and for gas and everything else. So obviously, this was not an amicable parting. I think the takeaway, though, is Musk genuinely believed he could make a difference, or I don't think he would have participated in Doge, gone into the government. I think that he probably feels rugged or blindsided that the big, beautiful bill came out. And clearly, as any Bitcoiner will tell you and will have been able to tell you for all of time, there's no way out but printing. And that the government is always going to spend money. They're never going to be responsible. It's like Smeagol with his Precious, the ring. Like once the temptation is there and you have your money on the printer, it's effectively impossible to say no. And I really think that's what's happening here. So it's getting ugly.
Yeah, and I think that's the kicker, right? I'm in your camp that I think Elon really thought he was going to make a difference. And, he's already running like 5 other companies, yet here he's devoting time to this, trying to do this major cutting in spending and literally, the bill, unless we have the best economy in history and the tax revenue is like amazing, that's why they're saying like, oh, the deficit might fall if that happens. We know it's not going to happen that way. Every political party that pushes one through is like, they base it off of like, if everything goes right and the economy booms, sure, it'll reduce the deficit. But inevitably, you have recessions along the way, and then all of a sudden, it adds $5 trillion to the deficit. And yeah, I think, and now you poke a bear, right? You poke a bear, being Donald Trump, by saying a few things on social media, and it's not going to end well. So
it seems to have 2 bears poking each other. Yeah, it seems to have 2 bears poking each other. It's not like Elon Musk is afraid of a little controversy, and he has a bit of money behind him. So it's going to be interesting. Arguably the 2 most powerful men on the planet.
That's right.
What's the saying my mother used to say? Never tickle a sleeping dragon.
I like that one.
She said it in Latin, so I just asked for the American translation. But let's pivot over a little bit to markets. The key thing I want to bring out and ask you to, I just want to show a few charts and then bring out and ask you to, is what's happening to me with Circle as part of my macro that really scares me about all cryptos. And that is when you can get access to peer-to-peer cash via the dollar instantly via crypto dollars. Why do you need what Bitcoin was originally launched for, other than for now it's digital gold and speculation? And why do you need things like XRP and everything? But we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to show you this chart. This, to me, is what's going to define tomorrow. Tomorrow, the way I look at it is this is in the middle. I show you that's the Bitcoin gold ratio. It rolled over right from that 33 pivot. It's heading lower. The dollar's collapsing. This is just on the year. T-bond yields, key thing you mentioned here earlier. In T-bond yields, we talk about the potential deficit. T-bond yields spiked around 5%, 5.15%, are rolling over. And here's the key thing tomorrow, beta. If the S&P 500 has a down day tomorrow, to me, that's a pylon trade, and it'll fit into all my severe deflationary forces I'm really worried about. If it's up, I have no clue what to do. But I want to lean over into just a few things that might be becoming enduring. I'm really worried about that peak, May 22nd. I hope it doesn't go down in history as the peak, but that's the day that, on that day, the T-bond, the 30-year peaked at 5.15%. It was almost a 20-year high, and Bitcoin peaked at 112,000. They just started to roll over, but that to me is the macro of the problem. Bitcoin going up is pushing up bond yields because it means speculative excesses, a lot of wealth creation. Fed cannot ease in that environment. They made that mistake last year. They know it. They're never going to do that again. This is another thing. Just a few more, and then I'll lay low here. This is one thing I've been concerned about for a while. This is that Bitcoin to gold ratio. It looks like it's rolling over again, but overlay it with the S&P 500. It's the same chart. That's what I'm worried about. And then I look at our Bloomberg model. It's showing pretty significant weakness. Now, it's been wrong for a little while. We might have to kill it soon, but if it doesn't do something soon, I don't, it looks like it's, let's put it this way, if beta's down tomorrow, everything rolls over. Now I'll end with this, and then we can tilt on some other things. This is also what I'm worried about, is that systematic risk of this space. Again, this is what I show you. This is the market cap of Doge. Now Dogecoin, to me, that's a melting ice cube. It should go down to a couple thousand from 27 or so billion right now. It's starting to do that. It's rolling over. But the key thing that worries me about this crypto, it's number 8, is you overlay it with Bitcoin to gold. It's the same chart. So it's what I've been looking on for a while, is that same chart syndrome. So to me, this is what we're all worried about tomorrow. My base case is tomorrow's, if the stock market's down, maybe because of potentially weak unemployment, the dominoes tumble. If it's up, I have no clue what to do.
So, and just to recap, yesterday we got ADP private sector jobs data that came in at 37,000 versus 111,000. So it was weaker. Jobless claims this morning, which were our people filing for unemployment, were 247,000. Last week was 239. And then the previous multiple weeks were kind of around 220. So you're seeing the labor market weaken, and obviously tomorrow's non-farm payrolls could be the confirming factor. I think that's the one caveat here. So if the labor market weakens, we've already seen yields come down. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the markets are now factoring in a rate cut from the Fed in September. So it is now favored in September. Do you guys have any comments?
That was like 90% for July a month ago, so I don't give it much credence anymore. And I haven't for years.
But I mean, at least for the first time, we're actually seeing. It looks to me like we're actually seeing the labor market finally weaken, right? And I think that's been what's been kind of holding things back, if you will.
Yeah, it's such a lagging thing too. It's what's concerned me about this, because we all know we are way overdue for that recession that didn't come on 2023. We got a major catalyst for it. We got elevated risk assets in the U.S., the highest ever. We have selling the U.S. You can see that in the dollar, still down almost 8% in the year. People are just getting out of the U.S. And now, as you point out, we potentially have the Fed, I'm just showing here, up to 95%. They're going to cut 25 basis points by that September meeting. And to me, there's only one force that's going to make them do that. Market's going down. And what's the leading indicator for all that? Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been noticing that. So, stock markets are pretty much still at their recent highs, and Bitcoin has definitely rolled over. The question is, can Bitcoin get its next leg up? But there's no doubt that Bitcoin has stalled out here just over the last, 2 to 3 weeks, while the stock market remains pretty strong. And in fact, let me just pop up this chart here. We can see here, Bitcoin, you can see it had that beautiful, this is what we call a reversal candle, because see how the green here and this red reverses the entire move and then some. So versus this one right here was only a small reversal. That's still bullish, right? And so you get that down move reversal, inside bar bearish pattern, down move into support, and now it's looking like it's starting to break here. Next key support is going to be around 96 to 94,000. So it does look like Bitcoin is on the verge of taking a leg lower. But I mean, Scott, were you at Bitcoin Vegas?
I was.
What did you get? What kind of interpretation did you get any sense of anything?
Yeah, quite a few things. I would say that just really the key takeaways are that the Bitcoin audience has matured by easily 20 years average from the first conferences I went to. 2021, it was all the crypto degen, the anonymous farm characters, at the clubs in Miami. This time it was people in buttoned up with suits or guys my age there with their kids. True believers, really investors, I think a higher net worth and much more serious. So I thought that was a very positive takeaway. And my other takeaway, which I've shared quite a few times, that the only thing people were talking about was basically Bitcoin treasury companies. And I think that's great if a company wants to take 5% of their cash and buy Bitcoin. I don't think we need 100 people financially engineering ways to raise debt and sell stock to buy Bitcoin. And I'm pretty 90% convinced that whenever the next bubble pops, that's going to be the thing that does it. It's the same exact investors who are doing ICOs in 2017 and VC pre-sales in 2020. These are the new shitcoins of this cycle. I'm not saying they're all crap. I think the ones that exist are going to do quite well. They already have, but some of these, raised at $1 a month ago and they're trading at 25, right? So you're talking about investors, early investors with access and money, the same whales, 25x out of the gates, right? Eventually they get bored. They're going to sell, So, and Bitcoin chart right now does not look spectacular to me either.
No,
which
yeah,
I've been
it certainly
saying for quite a
doesn't.
while. We got kind of a head and shoulders there. Listen, this is not my bias, just to be clear, but if I was going to post something quote unquote scary for Bitcoin, and I think the environment is different, it would be this same chart on the monthly. If you remember, we hit that high of 65, had a big dip, went and swept it up to 69 and dropped. Well, we had that high right around 109. We swept it kind of here at 112. Listen, doesn't have to repeat. I am a very big fan, actually, of charting something, having my bias, and then saying, what would the other argument be? And going and looking for it so that I'm not just being completely an idiot, FOMO moron like I've been in the past many times, and I'm sure all of us have. And this is the one thing that would concern me, is that it kind of looks like you get that high sweep and maybe we're due for a bigger correction. That said, the fundamentals, it is a lot of tailwinds, right? And when I talk about a bubble in Bitcoin treasury companies, I'm talking about at 150, 200, not at 90 on the way down, because they won't even happen if we go down here.
That's the part of the reason I really enjoy being with both of you, is just the way you described it, Scott, and you too, Gareth, is you need, as good traders, you admit when you're wrong, you get yourself stopped out, you move on and go on to the next trade. And you got to do that sometimes. So that's what I think's happening in Bitcoin. Some of us who were too bearish, you get stopped out, you go back, and then you go, the bigger risk is going down. But I want to show you one big picture chart that I think is going to get some either confirmation or denial tomorrow. And that is what you see in gray. This is the S&P 500 divided by the rest of the world. S&P, the MSCI ex-US index. It's been on an absolute tear for almost 15 years, since that bottom in 2009. It looks like it's breaking that trend line. It has same chart syndrome with the dollar. This is a Fed trade weighted broad dollar. They're both breaking down at the same time. They're the same trade at the same time gold's going up. If we get a little bit of weak or confirmation of a slowing economy, weakening payroll tomorrow, and the stock market goes down, this gets legitimized, and this trade can easily go back to simply 50% and still be above its level it was for 40 years. This is a paradigm shift that's happening, and we've had 100-year events. So this is the things I have on the cusp of looking at, and that's part of the reason I think crypto is a leading indicator for everything. So hopefully we'll be okay tomorrow, and we'll just bounce back above, and then we're back to the same old trade. Everything goes up together. But here's the problem I'm worried about, is if the stock market ends up its consensus on the year, which is about 10% for the S&P 500, gold does not make sense at 3,300 an ounce or 3,400 an ounce. It makes sense back down to 3,000. But if we just get that little downward year, can easily get gold towards 4,000.
Maybe we'll get Musk back as a Bitcoiner as a result of all of this, and that'll set us up. Think about that. Like if he's if he's passionate about fiscal responsibility, and he's always understood it. Maybe he'll be the great white knight once again. That's sarcasm. We don't need.
It is, to be honest, it is amazing to watch. It's almost like a slow motion crash you can't turn away from. In that, like you said, Scott, these two are, basically the two most powerful men in the world. One controlling a major social media platform, so he says anything and he gets 1 million likes or whatever it is. And then the president on the other side, which obviously the leader of the U.S. But it definitely, it kind of raises the stakes here. Where will we get a bill that gets through? And does the market, I guess I would ask you guys this, is that in its current form, if the bill gets passed, is that a positive for markets, risk assets, because it's safety, it's more spending, versus what Musk is pushing for could be actually something that pushes us into recession?
What Musk is pushing for should push us into recession, right? Austerity should slow the economy, and you need to go through some pain for the long-term gain. That's what was being proposed. It was never going to be politically palatable. But I think that's why people were so surprised at the beginning of the Trump presidency, because he campaigned on the idea that he judged his presidency based on the price of the markets, right? Stocks go up, everything goes up. And then you had the tariff thing and kind of this austerity by another name with Doge, and it started to rock markets to the downside. And Trump even would come out during that phase, if you remember, and said, I'm not looking at the stock market. I don't care about the stock market. That's not the gauge. Yeah, well, here we are, right? So for better or for worse, like every part, no party has a claim to fiscal responsibility. They're both going to do the exact same thing when it comes to it. You had Donald Trump literally tweeting that he agreed with Elizabeth Warren today about raising the debt. Right? If that tells you about the uniparty any more than you need to see. But yeah, I think that the big beautiful bill is obviously stimulative. Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing I think we're seeing here now, here's most emboldened human beings on the highest level ever on the planet, Donald Trump, and he's starting to think his legacy. He's got 3.5 years or so left, and then he's done forever. As far as leadership, how's the world going to view him? And when people push back and they call him this word, that taco, that Trump always chickens out, is so disingenuous. He's one of the baddest asses on the planet. I mean, this guy, I've watched him for decades. You don't mess with him. Just go with the flow. He's the king. Go with the king. You just don't want to be on the wrong side. So that's my point is right now is what he's going to do. He'll be emboldened to do tariffs up to an average of 15%. He's going to break us down in this trend line, I say. And the only thing that stops him is what stopped him in April. Stock market dropped 13%. He says, I'll pull back 90 days. To me, you see the lose there? And that's also, I think, what Bessent and all these leaders know. They all understand. They're older than I am, and they get what happens. You basically need a little bit of cleansing before you can get to that next stage. And if they can get that cleansing done well before midterms and be on an upswing, they're okay. But if they start getting that cleansing a couple months before midterms, that's going to be a problem. And to me, this is what we're tilting for potentially now. And I just wish, hopefully we'll get through this okay tomorrow. But to me, this is about that reversion of risk assets that will bring down bond yields, which is what they want. That will bring down energy prices, which is what they want. And then you can talk about all these jobs going to the Midwest from the investors again overseas.
And yields are popping up again today, by the way. So yields looked like they were on their way down, and now they're another kind of bottom candle. I mean, it's still 4.39, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a look at. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse for Tesla stock here. The stock is now down 17% on the day. That is a huge move down. So again, it'd just be interesting to see where this ends and what the factors are. And it kind of shows us one thing. Number one is that how much was built into Tesla stock price that was kind of going with Trump, right? The benefits of being with Trump. And then the other side too is that, does the politicians, does Trump then make a purpose to try to exclude Tesla? So there a negative factor now of being against him, right? Or do they make up? I mean, who knows? We could all wake up tomorrow and then kumbaya.
I told you guys before, maybe I shared this at the time, but last year in Nashville, the big buzz, there was supposed to be this huge surprise guest. Trump obviously gave the keynote, and the rumor, which was true, was it was actually going to be a fireside chat between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. That was right when Musk started coming sort of onto Team Trump. And people may not remember, but it was kind of leaked and Musk was upset. And then Trump basically decided to keynote and not do the fireside. And Musk landed his plane because it was being tracked in Nashville, so that everyone thought he was showing up 2 hours before the speech, and then took right back off and flew off to California. So there's no lack of ego battles between the two of these historically.
The entertainment quality is priceless. I just hope we don't get on the wrong side of those two guys. But I think the key thing I want to bring, the macro and Tesla, to me, they're fit right into the lessons of Jeff Booth's The Price of Tomorrow. What's happening to Tesla is what they did to the other automotive manufacturers. Look what BYD is doing. Their BYD is a clear bull market. What you see there in Tesla, that's the same price now as almost 5 years ago, and it's a bear market. It's just what's happening with U.S. tech. It's great we have that Mag 7, but what's happening in China is phenomenal. And yeah, okay, they don't have earnings and stuff, but the technology coming there is so deflationary. And Tesla's just one of them. Tesla can lose a lot. And we go back to the old days. Okay, now they're more of a car manufacturer rather than a technology company. What happens with technology? Competition is fierce. That's the lessons of Jeff Booth, is that the deflationary forces.
Yeah, I was giggling because I was saying technology and crypto. We have the Circle IPO today, which up to 94 at one point there. I think now it's trading, here you go, 81.51. But actually, a friend sent this to me, I think via Robinhood, that you could buy this yesterday at 27 to 29.
Wow.
Right. I think in relatively small size, but people were offering this pre-IPO on major platforms under $30, and it rocketed to 90 right on the opening. I think it was multiple times oversubscribed. I mean, they raised billions more than anticipated. So I think at least this proves that there's a thirst. By the way, Circle's a bit of a unicorn, right? There's not another company like this that could IPO in the United States or in crypto. So that needs to be taken. This is not in a vacuum, right? But this is pretty incredible price action. I think it shows how little activity there was in the IPO market. And obviously mergers and acquisitions really weren't happening for a few years there with the overregulation. And now everybody is just going to race to get public. And by the way, Circle was trying to SPAC this a few years ago. So they really won actually by being shut down and having to wait, because clearly this was the perfect moment between crypto and the IPO market for them to get public.
So I got to
Yeah.
follow up on that one. The key lesson, there was a Bloomberg story about it and point out, be careful with IPOs. 90% of them eventually lose money over time. And this, it gave the example, last time we had an IPO rally this much on the first day was CureVac NV in 2020. It's collapsed since. It's just, you don't even want to look at it. But one thing I think you're seeing there is it's that technology that's overwhelming that we've been pointing out forever of crypto dollars and tokenization, and to be able to transact and transmit value on the chain instantly. That to me is priceless. But to me, it's starting to put out the overvalued silliness of some of these silly tokens. Still, Dogecoin be number 8 and worth $27 billion. That's the thing. I think what we're seeing as these companies go public, and we see the rational investors getting involved. We see that everything. There's so much stuff of those 16 million cryptos that are just short bait.
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's what's interesting is there's been a lot of, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but in the stock market, at least over the last couple weeks, the euphoria has really screamed. We've seen semiconductors going nuts. CoreWeave, for instance, which is a recent IPO, had one of the most epic runs
That's
here.
like an altcoin.
Yeah, I mean this thing was just nuts. What these things, but it's just showing you that we've seen the runs. I mean, look at this from mid-April at that chart. And today it's actually having a big corrective move. And then you look at Broadcom reporting earnings today after the bell. And look at this. This is a $1.2 trillion company. And this thing has gone from 137 on April 7th to the high today, 265. I mean, just incredible moves that you wonder, is it back to the speculative side, a la Circle, and what a great gain there. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there. Maybe it should. But you're seeing people willing to just jump in again, which is, to me, a keynote caution signal.
Exactly. So there's only one thing that ends this. That's been the pattern since the bottom in 2009. We've only had 2 down years, and certainly the last one was just because of tightening that we can't do anymore, or we have to keep doing. Is the chart I showed at the beginning, I want to show again, is we've had the correction. I think it was a shot across the bow. We've had the bounce, and now we're getting that rollover. And to me, that's why tomorrow is so important. There's only one thing that ends this massive speculative frenzy that's in place for over a decade, is lower prices. It's the way it always works. That's what happened in the 30s, the 1930s in the US, 1929, 1989 in Japan. And we're as expensive then now as a lot of those markets were then. So the key theme is what stops this, what prevents this, what are the triggers. So I've got all my signals lined up, and we'll just see what happens tomorrow. Like I said, if we have that S&P 500 down for any reason tomorrow, to me, that's probably going to be a go with.
So do you guys, I mean, so we're looking at some weaker economic data, yet the markets are still, I mean, in all fairness, the S&P's only a few points off its all-time, or not, yeah, about 2% off of its all-time highs.
Double top?
What's that?
The potential double top?
Well, or I mean, the question is, do you guys think that we're going to go to new all-time highs, or does this peter out? I mean, is this going to peter out?
Well, that's the chart I'm showing. It's starting to peter out already before payrolls. Payrolls has to dispute it, and that's why I think what's happening. And on that bounce, one of the things is big difference from that bounce from the one with a very similar velocity we had at the start of 2020. Massive fiscal monetary stimulus responded to that bounce, and it was very artificial. This one, man, we got more. We get infighting in the government. We got Fed who can't ease, and we got austerity. To me, this is the part of the beginning of the bear market, and bear markets never really bottom to get really bearish, and bull markets always end on massive enthusiasm. We're certainly getting those in cryptos.
Yeah,
what's interesting, a couple days ago.
What's interesting here, I'm just looking at the S&P daily chart. So we're actually at the lows of the day. Markets are taking a hit now. So I mean, we were neutral to positive earlier, so you can't really blame the economic data at this point. But the question is it the straw that broke the camel's back, right? So
this is
you
Musk
had some bad economic news, and now you're throwing in a Trump versus Elon. Does the market just say, oh my goodness, like this is it? At this point, we're dumping, right? So amazing, man. Scott, what do you think? Give me some.
Yeah, I think this is mostly Trump and Elon right now, and that might be justified, by the way, because like I don't think anyone underestimates what these two are willing to say and what lengths they're willing to go to if they start to feel spiteful and angry. So it's yet another, I think there's just another one of those Trump uncertainty moments that makes the market go down a bit. Like, we had this very kind of long period where the only thing driving markets was what came out of Trump's mouth or fingers on Truth Social at any given moment. It feels like we could be entering another one of those phases right now if these two keep going.
Do you guys think that let's say they make up and by tomorrow they're semi buddy. What and in all fairness, Trump is like that. Like he's had, I mean, his
Yeah.
primaries and stuff. I mean, he said some
Oh,
nasty things, and then he's best friends with them. I mean, he's said nasty things about government leaders or foreign leaders, and then they can be buddy. So he certainly is okay with forgiving. But I guess the question is, if that happens, do we just go right back to all time highs, or do you think there's enough here? I mean, obviously, Mike, you're thinking from what you're seeing in your charts that it's the beginning of the end here. We're getting close to the bigger roll.
It's the beginning of the end, and prices are just so lofty. That's my point. Is there's a massive optionality trade here, and okay, if it goes back to if I'm wrong, it goes back to all-time new highs. Yeah, they got much to lose. But if this turns out to be right, this is the beginning of a very similar situation that happened. The peak in 1929, the peak in 1999, in 1989 in Japan, the peak in 1999. These are so massive disparities in the. It's not like U.S. exceptionalism, but the premium in U.S. assets. So on the year, the MSCI ex-U.S. index is up almost 20%. S&P 500 is up about 1%. That's get me out, and the dollar's declining. So to me, this is what this chart's signaling tomorrow already. But what you mentioned, that little skirmish between Trump and Elon, a lot of times things like that will just get people to stop out some of their leveraged positions. That's all this is right now. This is nothing. It's what happens by the end of the day tomorrow on a Friday after payroll number. If this continues downward, I mean, you should expect cryptos to get hit over the weekend and then to continue to trickle down to just get started. I mean, this would be it would be like 2000 and 2008, where early in the year. But again, that's a hypothetical. We have to see how things pan out tomorrow. If you get a strong number, then it might kind of distort things. But overall, everybody knows it tilts that way. Just look at housing. You can, credit cards delinquencies, auto loan delinquencies. Everything's tilting downward like it did in 2006-07. What stops it?
So speaking of payrolls tomorrow, are you guys in the camp that it's going to follow suit with the ADP? Because sometimes, let's be fair, the ADP comes out at some number, and then the non-farm is fine, right?
Or we just revise them.
Well, I'll give you our Bloomberg Economics on a Wong thinks it's going to be a very weak number, leisure, hospitality, and things like that. The unemployment rate will probably be the key thing that hits the tape. You'll see play on the weekend press. She's expecting it to jump up to 4.3%, one basis point from 1/10 of a basis. I'm sorry, 1 basis point from 4.2%. So we're expecting a weak number, and you've seen it from ADP, you've seen it from claims. Let's see if this number can push back on it.
Hey, Gareth, if you're wondering if they're going to become friends again, I would love for you to bring up my screen really quick. Time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. I think the friendship might be over.
Who needs TV, man? Who needs TV?
Exactly. That's why I'm just not. I just don't get nonfiction, because sometimes this stuff is just, you can't make it up. It's awesome. It's entertaining.
Yeah, my wife texted me that while we were sitting here. She's with oh shit.
I just hope not too many people getting hurt by it, but it sure is entertaining. And I think the rest of the world looks like this. And oh boy, America's at it again. There's no one who can beat this.
Oh goodness. Wow. All right, we got 1 minute left. Is there any parting words, or do we just do a mic drop on that one?
I think we dropped the mic. What else is there left to say? I mean, this is just crazy.
All right. Well, on the positive note, I can say stay tuned. Not only do we have non-farm payrolls tomorrow, but we probably have more drama. So we'll all wake up tomorrow morning and see where things are. Thank you, gentlemen. Follow these guys below in the socials, and we hope to be back next Thursday. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.